This is Lightning Power Lunch, presented by Reef Rum on the Lightning Audio Network with Dave Mishkin and Greg Linnelli.
We've just been doing it for extended periods of time and facing adversity too. It's not like we haven't been down, and in some of these games we've been down, we've came back, we've got the lead, we've extended it, and then going into the third we protected it. So I think that's kind of what we've been doing. It's obviously a crazy little run here, but it doesn't stop here. We got many more games to go. I mean, can't get too high, can't get too low, and I think that's what this team's been doing good at.
Many more games to go. Boy, does it already feel like a whole season we've played. Still much more to come. Olympics, second half of the season. Not even at the trade deadline. That's going to be fun.
Yeah.
And a lot to talk about. Does it impact the Lightning in any way? But Brandon Hagel speaking at the beginning of our show.
Yep. He's kind of had an under-the-radar type of year. I mean, last year I think it was not under the radar. I mean, he scored the 35 goals, not one of them on a power play, had a significant role at the Four Nations, fought Matthew Tkachuk. And I think it was noticeable. He has been in the news because of what has happened to him, getting hit in the head. And then he started the first 7 games with, I think he had 1 assist in the first 7 games. That was noticeable. But the fact that he's gotten hot, like there have been other stories, I think, even like on our show, and we're all in on the Lightning every day. It's not like we're talking a lot about Brandon Hagel, but he's putting together a very good season.
It's incredible. Mm-hmm. We have a special guest ready to hop on.
Is she ready?
She's ready. Let's bring her in.
There she is.
Hey, fellas.
Welcome.
How's it going? Thanks for having me on. This is a real
course.
treat. I listen to you guys all the time. So this is like, wow. I mean, obviously, Dave, I've seen you in person, but Greg, it is nice to see you. And
Absolutely.
yeah, great job on the pod. I listen to it all the time.
Well, we appreciate it.
We would have had you on even if you hadn't said that, but thank you.
That's true. That's true. I did not pay Julie any money to say that, but it's very, very kind of her, and she's doing an unbelievable job filling in for Gabby,
and congratulations to Gabby.
For sure,
which
is always exciting. Well, Julie, I mean, I think for some who don't know, you've been in this business a long time. You've got an opportunity here covering the Lightning, which is really a cool moment because, I mean, this team is playing just unreal. Can you kind of just walk us through a little bit of your background for those who don't know and what it's like covering this Lightning team right now?
Yeah, well, I appreciate you asking that, Greg, because a lot of people have kind of asked me, like, well, how did you just sort of walk onto this team and get this job? I'm like, oh, yeah, I just appeared magically out of nowhere. And I was like, I would like to cover the Tampa Bay Lightning. No, like this is a lifelong years process that has gotten me to this point. And it's, I think, really a reflection when we do look at all of our careers, anyone, whatever you do, how every little thing that you do can kind of lead to these moments, right? Like I have been covering hockey since even before that I was in the industry, when I was back in university in Canada and covering like local sports for our campus station, Queen's University I went to. Shout out. Probably nobody even knows what I'm talking about, but in saying that, I cover the Kingston Frontenacs in the OHL. People probably know that. And then was doing a lot of volunteer reporting. And that was like the only way you get experience is by doing the thing. And I remember going to Hockey Night in Canada after I had got my master's in London. And I was like, I want to be on Hockey Night in Canada. And they're like, great, cool. Well, go outside of Toronto, go get your experience, go make your mistakes. And then maybe someday, in a long, long time, you may get a chance to be on Hockey Night in Canada. And I was like, all right. So I left Toronto, and I was a shot lister for Hockey Night, like, doing the games, sitting there. And I mentioned on another podcast, I think, that I always got Columbus and Islanders games. Like that's all I did. And I was like, oh, God, like, I mean, can I please catch a break here? Like, just did I ever know Jared Bull? I was like, okay, all right, just like all the time marking every single thing that happened in those games. Okay. So then I worked covering OHL. I mentioned I used to stay at my grandma's retirement residence in Niagara. I covered the Niagara Ice Dogs. Did the Memorial Cup when Gerard Gallant won with the Sea Dogs. Like, that's how old I am. Like, when I say those things and people are like, oh, wow, okay, all right, she's been around for a while. Mm-hmm. So then, like, going out into Saskatchewan, that was an amazing experience. And I say that like I was at Braden Point's first ever skate, and it was because I was there to cover Morgan Riley coming back from injury. And Braden just happened to be skating for the first time. He was 15 years old. Like, it was cool to kind of get there and see that. But at the same time, I had been doing a course in my spare time when I was working as a sports reporter anchor in scouting. I was really interested in scouting and general managing. And it was because the Bruins had asked me to be in their scouting combine rooms, interview rooms, which, as you guys would know, as a journalist, as an interviewer, you do not get access to those rooms. And they wanted me in there because I had been around all these guys. They wanted me to ask questions. And it was a formative experience, first of all, to understand what those rooms are like. And then also that they gave me the confidence that I belong, right? That I have value and I know these guys and I can ask them stuff that they're not there on a daily basis. And so doing that piqued my interest into scouting. And so I tell this story because that's how I met Al Murray, who at the time was the director of amateur scouting for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Right. And I crossed paths with him. And then that was when Steve Yzerman was there and they were looking at Braden Point. And so Al was great. He helped me a lot with learning how to watch the game from a scouting perspective, because I did actually ponder and think about wanting to be a scout. And then I realized that's not the life I actually want to live. Like in the third period, when the scouts usually leave, I was like, okay, so where's the adrenaline of me going on air? Like, where is that je ne sais quoi that you don't have as a scout? It's like, no, now we leave and we go to the next small town in Saskatchewan. And like, it's a grind. And I guess I just didn't have that grind in me, that dog to be a scout. But it was great because I learned so much about watching the game in that way. And I made so many contacts. And so that was my first Tampa Bay Lightning experience. And then I mentioned this, I met John Cooper at Brandon Siegel's Calder Cup party in White Rock, British Columbia. And at that point, I was just like meeting the coach of the team. Like, oh, hi, I'm Julie. I'm friends with Brandon's friend. Like, and he was so cool. Same person that you see here today. And then I ended up covering, I made the Ryan Getzlaf, Jarrett Stoll move where you go from Regina, Saskatchewan to Los Angeles and Southern California, and was lucky enough to be able to be a part of Fox Sports 1's launching. And then Fox Sports 1 didn't have like a lot of hockey, right? So I begged to do regional stuff there. Like, why do you want to do that hockey thing? Like, come on. I was like, I love it. I love hockey. I'm Canadian. Please. The NHL is here, because I'd never been around an NHL team, really. Like the Winnipeg Jets were the closest team. I used to drive 5 hours to go to a game from Regina, Saskatchewan. And like, that's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs is what I like to say. So I got to fill in hosting LA Kings games. And then I just ended up being asked to fill in on the Anaheim Ducks for 3 games, and I stayed for 3 years. And it was the best experience ever. And I always have said since that moment, I've worked a lot of jobs. I'll wrap this one up right now. I've worked a lot of jobs, but covering the Ducks was my favorite experience because of the team, the broadcast team I had. We all had each other's backs. We had the best time ever. We're still friends. And we still, I see them. I mean, I was in Anaheim for my second game with Tampa, and I just really missed that camaraderie in the last couple of years. And I've worked at ESPN, I've worked at CBS Sports, and I've done a lot of different things. And I covered Tampa and Toronto for TNT, but only 2 games because I got COVID, but we won't talk about that. And then, but since then I've been doing a lot of podcasts from my apartment, one with Nate Thompson, former Bolt. And I've just been like pining to like get back out in the game. I literally was like, please universe, like I just want to cover hockey again. And I don't want to be in my apartment anymore. And like bingo, bango, bongo, I see Brian Briesman at the NHL meetings in Vegas when I'm doing interviews. And he was like, hey, we're looking for somebody to fill in for Gabby when she has a baby. And I was like, hand up. I was like, I'm there. Like, I don't even logistics. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out later. Did an audition, didn't hear for a while, was like, I put everything into that audition. You can ask them. Like I pulled out all the stops, pulled out every single contact I possibly had. And I was like, okay, if this is supposed to happen, it will. And I just kept thinking that. And I'm like, and if it doesn't, it's not. And then it ended up, I got the call in like mid-December being like, hey, do you want to come be a part of the Tampa Bay Lightning? I was like, yes. I was like, thank God. I just wrote in my journal that day being like, I am so grateful that I have gotten the job to be the replacement reporter for this time. Like, just trying to do the power of positive thinking. And so I'm just beyond grateful. Every single day I wake up and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm in Tampa right now. Wow. And I get to be at the games, cover the games. And, even though it's for this short amount of time, it's like every single day, every game, every interview, I relish. Because I've seen it when you don't have it and you really miss it. And so I'm just grateful to be back.
Well, Julie, I think for people who didn't know your extensive career history, they would be able to tell after hearing you do one interview how well you do interviews. And I know that there are two kind of cardinal rules, which I struggle to follow myself, especially when you're on TV. Keep your questions short and don't make the questions a yes or no answer opportunity for the person you're interviewing. You do both of those. Is that something you had to learn over time? Like, how did you develop that skill?
It's a great question. And I will say I have incorporated, though, the second cardinal sin of the closed question, the yes or no, because someone recently told me sometimes you can get something out of a guy by being like, did you expect that to happen? Mm-hmm. Like I asked Braden Point, like when he passed to Nikita Kucherov and Kuch shot, like kind of from a weird, I forget where we were. Everything is blended together in the last 20 odd days.
It was before the point injury, clearly.
It was before the point injury. And he was like he, people didn't expect Kuch to shoot from there, but like, and he even said like, yeah, I didn't know if he was going to shoot or not, but like blah, 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 whatever. So, but I will say when I worked at ESPN and I this was the best thing I've probably ever had in my career. The opportunity was John Sawatsky. He teaches a course there on interviewing. And I wish I had gotten this experience when I was like doing my master's or like early in my career. He taught us so much about how to ask a question. And one thing to maybe like something I'll leave here, which I think about all the time is, there's so much psychology to how you ask a question, because if you come in and you say, like, say I'm talking to Coop, which by the way is a question's a whole different way of asking questions. If you say, hey, you guys struggled in the first period, but what changed? You're saying you're immediately having a negative, like you struggled. So the person is going to psychologically always try to make it neutral. Right. So they will focus not on your question, but because you said that they struggled. Even if they did struggle, maybe they got scored on like 500 times. They'll say, well, I don't think we struggled. And really, I think we played well, and they will focus just on making it neutral. And if you say, well, you guys did really well in the first period, and what went to that success? Like sometimes they're like, well, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. So now we're bringing it back down to neutral. And so that was one thing I learned. And the other one was in sideline reporting. It's very, very difficult to like you're listening, but you do have an idea of where you're going with your next question, because it's like boom, boom, boom. But if someone says something, you have to be ready to be like, well, what do you mean by that? Or why, and then what happened, like, and why, like the simple, and I've had people on Twitter go at me being like, I can't believe you asked such a basic question. It's like basic questions can lead to some of the best answers, because it's not about us. It's about us being the conduit for getting those answers. And I think like, when we're younger in the industry, and especially as a woman, you're really trying to prove that you know what you're talking about. So I've clocked some people's interviews, timed them, and been like, wow, that question was 45 seconds. Like, you can't take 45 seconds to get to the question, because then what are you doing? Get to it as quick as you can. And nobody cares if you know what a power play is, or nobody cares. Like if they do, then whatever, you can't think about that. You have to just, you got to just go for it, or else you're just going to waste your time trying to prove to people that their opinion, whatever their opinion is of you, and you can never control that. So just, take that away, take your ego out of it, and ask the question.
Hard to do for a lot of people, but I think it's very a very good point that you made. Well, Julie, I know you've got to get going, but
she's a busy woman.
I like you.
we gotta have you back on for the whole hour.
That's my favorite thing. Ask me one question, I'll literally tell you, like, I will go off on a very long tangent.
That's okay.
That will take many.
So you're making up
turns.
for having to ask questions quickly.
That's right.
By giving, I'm the same way. I give very long answers, but we appreciate the deep.
We'll
dive.
do it again.
I know.
Keep
I
up the
wish
great work.
I actually literally have to go, like, at this exact minute. So I appreciate you guys. And thank you so much for having me on. And I hope that we get to do this again and keep up the amazing work.
You got it. You too.
Thanks, Julie.
Thank you,
Talk
Julie.
To you soon.
Bye.
We appreciate you. All right, coming on. Always great. You know, that's my first time speaking to Julie and hearing a little bit of her background. It is interesting. People who come up through
very
this business.
eloquent, which you wouldn't. I mean, she is eloquent, but you wouldn't know when you're asking a 10-second question. But she's eloquent.
That was a relatively short question on my part, and she ran.
Yes.
She ran. No.
Well, Steve did tell me because she's filling in for Gabby on Into the Blue.
Yeah.
And she gave her introduction, and Steve was like, she gave a very thorough recap. So I was like, we may be getting like redux of this, like we may be getting a version of the same answer. But she had 15 minutes, and she talked for most of it, which is great. So hopefully, Lightning fans have a better idea of like her journey. I knew about the podcast with Nate, and I learned that she worked in Southern California when we were in Southern California. Because we got to like the rink, and she knows all these people. Like, how does she know? I mean, I understand that she works like from a national bent. And she's like, yeah, I worked in both LA and Anaheim, my first 2 road games with the Lightning. I'm like, do you know anyone in San Jose? She's like, not really. So that was the 3rd game on the trip. But it was probably a nice takeoff point for her being in familiar areas. And one question that I didn't get to ask, which if we have her back on, I will ask her, like, you and I are focused on the game. Mm-hmm. I'm calling the game. You're watching the game. Mm-hmm. You know, if we have to do an interview relating to something that we just saw, we did see it. We were watching it, right?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Sideline reporter is different. Like, you may have to move around. You have to set up for a live shot. Your angle for the ice may not be the best. I know that Gabby sometimes goes back into a room and actually watches on a monitor to see what's going on. But you have to know what has happened to be able to ask those questions. They have to be relevant questions. That's a pretty tricky juggling act to me. And I never actually asked a sideline person how they do it. Like the mechanics of doing the job during the game, but also following the game so you can do your job during the intermission.
You're dealing with, particularly a player or coach coming off the ice, you're dealing with the emotion that's so raw. You're dealing with that. But to your point, let's say you've either missed it or you haven't been able to fully see what happened on a particular play because you're setting up, to your point. That's where simple is better.
And she has the earpiece. So, I mean, she can get help.
Right.
Whoever it is. Julie, Gabby, whomever, you know, the truck can help her. It's like, what happened on that play? And they're, oh, well, it looks like, you know, Point got hit. Somebody fell on Point's leg. You know, she didn't see that.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, so she has some information, but it is different if you can't see it yourself. And anyone who has been in a hockey game, you sit close to the ice, which is usually where the sideline people are.
Yeah.
It's great to feel what's going on, but your sight lines are not the same as if you're up high.
No.
So there's stuff you're just going to miss unless you can see a monitor.
Well, even like
Brian,
when Brian's down there, you can tell like when he's got to move up.
Right.
He's got to kind of look around because
and he's got it.
I
mean, I shouldn't say unobstructed because there are players in front of him, but you know, Julie's maybe squeezing in at like the Zamboni entrance, kind of couple of rows up in the stairwell, you know, to do a hit. You know, when the game is going on, where does she go? Anyway, next time she's on, we'll ask her about that.
Well, but we appreciate her time.
Yeah.
And if anybody had any questions regarding that, you can. At Bolts Radio, Steve, partner, sent us a tweet, our executive producer.
Yep.
Some news here. John Cooper said Ryan McDonough, and this is courtesy of Eric Erlinson, lightinginsider.com, won't play this weekend, but is now in the day-to-day category when they return home. And he said McDonough will definitely play before the Olympic break.
Great news.
And as he said, there is 5 games left, before the break after this 2-game road trip.
Mm-hmm.
So that part is very good news.
Yep.
We talk about what's the depth going to look like and where things are going to be headed. Getting Ryan McDonough back in the fold is going to be is going to be a good part of that. I think there was a second part to that, but it's
I don't really. I'm looking at it too. I don't really understand it. So.
My computer's not loading as
right. Mine
well
too.
As
so Steve, maybe have to write it in text form rather than a link.
That's some news. That's some news. In terms of anybody else, haven't heard anything from that perspective.
Well, it's getaway day for the team. They're going to a very frigid city, Chicago. I am doing these next 2 road games as well from the studio. Yeah. So I am still home, but 3 down and 2 to go off the monitor. But it is very cold in Chicago. Paul Kennedy actually sent me a link how cold it's going to be, like almost to the point where they're saying don't go outside. So, it's a quote from McDonough. Okay, so we'll read that. But, the Lightning are in and out. And it's actually an ESPN game tomorrow, so they play 6 o'clock Central, 7 o'clock Eastern. So even though they're losing an hour going to Columbus, they're really not losing an hour. It's almost like they're playing, 7 o'clock Eastern is typical. So a back-to-back is made a little easier thanks to ESPN. So
the quote from McDonough is, "It's been a little frustrating at times and really have to be patient with everything that is going on, but obviously a great step in the last few days to get on the ice by myself and now today with the group, and we'll just keep progressing and keep moving forward." And
I think the 2 questions relating to injured players other than McDonough as we head into these final 7 games, right? 2 on the road and then 5 at home, heading into the Olympic break. Braden Point and Victor Hedman. And the question is, will either of them get a game in, or more than a game, before the Olympic break? And what does that mean for their Olympic participation? If neither one can get into a game, I mean, for Hedman, he won't have played since a brief return to the lineup in early December. Is Team Sweden just going to throw him into an Olympic game? And the same with Braden Point. Point's injury won't have been as long, but Points is, the leg injury. So for their sake, they both want to play in the Olympics, for sure. For their sake, it would benefit them to get at least a game in before the break. And I'm sure both players would love to play in the outdoor game, but I don't know if that's in the cards.
It is kind of interesting how those are potentially not going to happen.
McDonough's going to get the 3-week vacation.
Yeah.
So he's going to get a couple of games in, however many he plays, and then he gets more time off. But
Isaiah says you think Point and Hetty and Ryan will be back this month or next.
Well, that was just what we were talking about. Yeah. So it sounds like McDonough will be back. I mean, I don't know, next month, the outdoor game is February 1st. But it's not going to be this weekend, but he will play before the Olympic break. One of the 5 games, if not more than one, the Lightning have at home, including the outdoor game. The other 2 players, who knows?
The outdoor game that's going to be a moment, a really cool moment for the city. It's not going to get overshadowed by the Olympics, but you do feel like, there's these 2 big moments happening.
Yes. Agreed.
Where, it's just impactful. You don't see it happen all the time. Alan says, with all the success this team has had so far, I do not envy the good problems Julian and Coop have to contend with. Do you guys think Gensel and James should stay together on a line?
Well, they play very well together, but that is a John Cooper question. And Coop threw James into a top 6 earlier this year. And I'm not sure that James did anything to warrant getting taken off that line, whatever line he was on. I actually don't even remember what line he was on. I just remember they had him briefly in a top 6 role. And I think it was unrelated to his injury. It's not like he was playing in the top 6 and then he got injured. Although in that game, I think he set up Hagel for a goal. So they were on the ice together. Maybe it was then. But Coop is not shy about moving players up and down the lineup, if that's the right way of putting it. The only thing of which I am completely certain, Greg, is that as long as the 3 players remain healthy, Gord, Gergensons, and Holmberg are going to be a line. That is too valuable of an asset for the Lightning for Coop to even consider tinkering with that. It just doesn't make any sense for him to move any one of those 3 players off that line unless they're going to get double shifted, which, you're short a player, somebody gets hurt. Cirelli didn't play the 3rd period the other night. So, I saw Gergensons, getting spot shifted. They basically, moved Paul up again. So, Gergensons was taking Paul's spot on the fourth line in addition to his regular shift with his regular line mates. Other than that, are Cirelli, Hagel, and Kucherov and Gensel going to be in the top 6? Yes. Is Point going to be in the top 6 when he's back healthy? Yes. I feel confident saying that.
Yeah.
Who's the other guy? It could be James, but it might not be James. And James understands that.
Yeah.
He's got such a good head on his shoulders. Like, he's not like, oh, shucks. I can't believe I'm here. Like, he has self-belief. We heard that from him when he got to camp. He's like, I believe in my ability. And he plays like it. Like, he doesn't play a conservative, timid game.
Yep.
He plays a proactive game. Like, he looks to engage. He looks to make an impact. Yep. All that is very positive. But he's also well grounded when he says, I'm just trying to soak up whatever information I can. We heard about that college experience he had with Noah Cates. He's like, I followed Noah Cates around because I just want to learn from him because I could see this guy's an NHL player, even though he hadn't yet been in the NHL. So James wants to learn. James wants to absorb. James understands He doesn't have all the answers, right? And I saw a quote recently from him. He was asked about the gourd line. He's like, I'm trying to watch what they're doing so I can incorporate some of that into my game. So if Coop comes to James and is like, we're putting you back into a bottom 6, we're putting you on the fourth line, if you want to call it that. We're going to call the gourd line the third line. James is like, okay. He's going to take whatever ice time he gets happily at this point. And I think he has the right mindset about that. Now, the fans might be like, how can they do that? Look, it's been 2 games for James and Gensel playing together. I agree. They've looked really good. But, you have other players that you could slot in there. And James is a center. The position that is open right now is center because Point is hurt. They tried Nick Paul there, also a center. They decided to make a change. They put another center in there. If Point comes back and, the fans are like, James must be in the top 6. James must play with Gensel. Well, James is probably not going to be at center because you got Point and Cirelli. So what does that mean? Like, these are the things the coach has to think about.
And the other thing, too, is we also know that John Cooper switches lines up. Even if we do think
that's how James got on that line in the first place,
For sure.
Early in the Dallas game.
There was a time being last year where you thought, Cooch and Point and Gensel wouldn't be broken up.
Yeah.
And sometimes things happen.
Gensel is such a good player. Like, Gensel can play. I say this, like, Gensel can play with anybody.
Yep.
And anybody can play with Gensel because he's such a smart player and he knows where to go on the ice.
Yep.
Now, if you put him with, I don't mean this term like in a derogatory way, but like plumbers. If you put Jake Gensel with 2 plumbers, he may not have the same production offensively. Like, the skill around him does matter, but his positional play is not going to be affected. Those 2 plumbers should be able to play with Jake Gensel.
Yeah.
You put some skill with him, though, he's going to make a play to somebody who gets open. He's going to get open, and that person is going to make a play to him, which is what we saw on his goal the other night against San Jose.
When you can play with Crosby, when you can play with Cooch, you can play
with
Aho. Yeah. You can play with anybody.
Brief sample size. Like, we have seen guys moved at the deadline.
Yeah.
Who kind of like, Carolina is a way. I understand Pittsburgh's go. Pittsburgh is not Carolina. Carolina is a very unique team in how the Hurricanes play. Mm-hmm. And if you arrive at the deadline, you have to be a quick study, which Gensel is. Mm-hmm. Goes to his upbringing, his dad, longtime coach. He knows the game, but also he was able to jive with arguably the most talented offensive player, at least a forward, on Carolina, Aho. And they had some chemistry in a very brief window into the regular season and then, their playoff run, which ended sooner than they would have liked. Sure. But
it's, we talk about all these guys that the Lightning have found and have developed. Getting Jake Gensel is going to go down as a very underrated move because he's not in the eyes of a lot of people, when you talk about forwards, he very rarely is in that conversation of best forward.
But who's having that conversation, Greg? This guy has been on the Four Nations for Team USA in a prominent role, and he's going to be on the Olympic team
No
for
doubt.
Team USA in a prominent role. So the people who know the game, who are like assembling these teams with the,
They do.
Team USA is not Denmark. Like I was talking to Bjorkstrand. Bjorkstrand's like, yeah, we're in the group with Germany and Latvia and the US. He's like, we're going to try and win the Latvia and Germany games. And then, he's smiled. He's like, we'll see what happens against the US. But I mean, most of the players on that Denmark team, it was not probably as challenging for the management group of the Denmark team to field a team. It's like, who from Denmark is playing in the NHL? That player is on the team, and then we have to find other guys to fill in. USA and Canada are in a completely different boat. They have to say no to a lot of high-quality, deserving players. So the fact that Gensel is a slam dunk, and he was a slam dunk, tells you what hockey people think of him.
And that's
so
fair.
Maybe the quote-unquote pundits don't talk a lot about Jake Gensel, but people who are in the business of, we need to build a team that can win against other great players. We want Jake Gensel on that team.
That part is fair. It's more of the pundits do have a lot of influence, though, when they're talking about the game to the average person and when they're covering it. And I think more Jake Gensel, let's put it this way, based off of the coverage that he gets or doesn't get, if you were to talk to the pundits and say, who are the 10 best forwards in the NHL, is Jake Gensel even getting a sniff? Is he getting a seat at the table with those conversations? And I think based off of his production and his credentials, he should.
Right.
And what I'm saying is the Lightning did another great job of identifying somebody that they liked, who it's not under the radar because he's on pace to be a Hall of Fame type player.
Yeah.
With his numbers, if he keeps scoring 35 to 40 goals a year.
Well, they talk about in baseball, there are probably other examples I can use, but like the 5-tool player, right?
Yes.
And I don't even know what all the tools are. It's like hitting, catching, throwing, speed.
Right.
There's fifth. I mean, that's not my forte. But maybe you have so every player is ranked. Okay. Yeah. Every player is ranked in those 5 areas. The 5-tool players is the player that's really, really good in all 5, which is rare. But you're going to have some players who are exceptional in, let's say, 1 or 2 and just okay in some of the others. Those players will get more attention because of their exceptional ability in at least 1, and I'm not giving them short shrift. Maybe they're exceptional in 2, maybe in 3, but the other 2 are just right? Those players are going to get more attention than a player who does all 5 really well, but maybe isn't exceptional in any one of the 5. And remember, actually, I shouldn't say remember. Phil Bourque joined us when the Lightning played the Penguins in Tampa. He didn't say this during our interview. He said it to me, though, last year. He's like, isn't Gensel amazing? He's like, he doesn't wow you with any one thing. He just did everything well. Everything well.
It's fair.
And he saw a lot of Jake Gensel, clearly.
Right.
So Jake Gensel, if we're going to use the baseball analogy, Jake Gensel in his 5 tools is like good to excellent in all 5. But is he one of the best in any of those 5? Maybe not. There are other players that are going to grab more of the spotlight. And maybe that goes to what you're saying about kind of pundit talk.
Yeah, that's fair. I think that's very
But incredibly valuable. I mean, if you can have a player that does all of these things well, like he can defend, he can pass, he can shoot, he knows where to go.
Take a face-off. You can take a face-off and win it, right?
Yes.
Yeah, all right. We've seen all of that. It's a great way to put it. I don't recall, this is from Tampa Bay, I don't recall, but do you guys remember if Coop went 12-6 or more 11-7 during the Cup runs?
I do recall, because we've talked about this quite a bit. So in 2021, I believe it was 12-6, because Savard was the 6th defenseman. Right? So you had Ruda Hedman, you had Chernak McDonough, you had Savard with Sergachev. Now, is it possible there were some games where, like Luke Shen, I think Luke Shen was in some games.
He was.
So maybe they did go 7 at some times.
I thought they went both. I thought they went both
may have
at
had a
times.
mix.
Yeah.
we can go back and look. Those were the 6 that I remember, and they played a lot, and they played as a pair, like those 3 groupings I just talked to you about. Played as pairs a lot. 2020, they did both, and we talked about this. They started 12-6. They won the first round series, going 12-6.
Yeah.
Ryan McDonagh got hurt in game 1 of the second round series against Boston, and instead of just replacing him with 1 defenseman, they replaced him with 2. They brought in Schenn and Coburn. So they went the rest of the Boston series 11-7, and at some point McDonagh came back. He didn't miss that much time, but when he came back, they kept Schenn in the lineup. They kept it 11-7 through the Boston series, through the Islander series, and into game 1 of the Stanley Cup final against Dallas. They lost game 1, and at that point, they went to 12-6 again. And I believe Bogosian was the guy that was taken out. So Schenn stayed in through the rest of the Stanley Cup final. So games 2 through 6 in the Stanley Cup final, they did 12-6. So it was about a 50-50 split, but it wasn't like hopscotch. Like it was 12-6 first stretch, 11-7 first stretch. They went back to 12-6. Part of that was they were winning a lot. So like you don't usually mess with a lineup that's winning. It's not like they lost 2 games that entire playoff run, but they made the switch after a loss because they lost game 1 to Boston as well, in addition to losing McDonagh. That was an injury decision, but it also may have been we just lost game 1, so let's tweak the lineup a little bit.
Yeah. I would. I recall them using both. I don't have the exact numbers.
In
It's a good
2021,
question.
you're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And
You know what?
it's
Let me
valid.
look up and see how many playoff games Luke Schenn played in the playoffs that year, because that'll give us the answer.
I'll take some. Yeah.
Well, you look at another question.
Gandrew says, "Love the show, guys. Finally catching it live while I eat lunch." The question is, what are you eating?
Is that to us, or we don't eat during
know.
the show?
I want to know what he's eating.
Oh, okay.
He's eating lunch. He's able to get it now for the first time. Nick, remember?
By the way, Schenn played 8 games in 2021. So that is the equivalent, I would say. So what did the Lightning have? They had a 6-game series. So I'm just remembering. Yeah, I can look up and see how many games.
About a third of the games? Third of the games, would you say?
Yeah, about a third.
Third? I mean, if they played 20.
So if we're going to, and let me just see the other defensemen. So in the playoffs, they played 23. So just more than a third. Hedman played 23.
Yeah.
Sergachev played 23. Chernak played 21.
Okay.
McDonagh played 23. Ruda played 23.
Okay.
And Savard played 20. So I don't really remember what happened to Chernak and Savard, that they missed those couple of games. So it's possible Schenn came in as a 6th defenseman. One of those other guys wasn't able to play.
That's fair.
But that tells us, just based on the numbers, most of the time they did go 12-6, maybe with an occasional 11-7. Chernak missed 2. Savard missed 3 of the 23 that they played.
Look at this information that we're
well, that was not a hard lift. And again,
okay.
I'm not looking at the game by game to see.
Make it a hard lift, partner. Make it a hard lift. That's okay.
I do remember the Lightning played the Islanders, and that was a 7-game series. That was the only series that went to 7 games.
Was that the Yanni Gourde goal, right?
The Yanni Gourde goal in Game 7, which they won 1-0. Remember, they shut out the Islanders, though, in Games 5 and 7. Game 5 was 8-0.
I do remember.
And I remember Luke Schenn scored. I believe it was the first goal. He scored a first period goal. I think it was the first
game
goal.
winner.
It was the game winner for
game
Luke
winner,
Schenn.
right?
Yes.
Yeah, the game
That's what jogged my memory. I was like, wait a minute.
good
Schenn
point.
did play.
Good point.
But he may have been in for one of these other defensemen, whether it was Chernak or Savard, might have missed one of those games, and Schenn came in as a 6D. Anyway. Sorry,
Nick,
you were about to read a question.
No, that's fine. This is more of just a comment. Nick, who I think goes to school in Cincinnati, our buddy.
Yes.
He's mentioned this a couple of times. He says, hey, guys, wanted to say how great the show is. I just started work 2 weeks ago, so watching live during the workday has easily been the highlight of my day.
Does Nick's boss know that Nick is spending this time
make
at
him
work?
a fan. Make him a fan, and we'll give him a shout out. Also, wanted to mention I planned on coming up to Columbus from Cincy this weekend, but it looks like we're going to be getting up to 15 inches of snow. Again, love the show and hope you guys stay safe.
Well, who's we? Is that Cincinnati or Columbus? Maybe it's good I'm not
Nick.
on this trip. Goodness gracious.
Yeah. Nick, stay safe. my friend up there. And we appreciate you, first off, with the job. Good stuff. And that you're able to watch our show. Probably more important than the job. No, I'm just joking. But we're very thankful that you listen to the show.
I remember, so Columbus is a sneaky city because it's not like Edmonton, right? I mean, it's not like Buffalo.
Yeah.
But Columbus can get bad weather. Like Columbus can get a lot of snow. And there was a game the Lightning had in Columbus. It was late in the season.
Yeah.
And it may have actually been the year that they missed the playoffs that led to them drafting Stamkos. It was a year where the game didn't have a lot of impact. And I want to say the game was at like 3:00 on a Sunday. And the Lightning, they may have been coming from another city. Like it was a road trip. And the snow was so high there. Like I remember the bus was struggling just to get us to the hotel. Like if you don't really think of, maybe people from Ohio are like, yeah, we get 15 inches of snow. Or like if Nick is saying we are getting 15 inches of snow, whether it's Cincinnati, Columbus, somewhere in between, that is Ohio. So it can happen there. And I remember it was one of those games where like they had the game, but you know, I don't think Columbus made the playoffs either, but it was one of those games where it was like, it was difficult for the fans to get to the arena by the next day because the snow drifts were just enormous. Anyway.
What's the, outside of COVID, non-COVID season, can you remember doing any games where the attendance was just, there was very few people there because of weather? In other words, you get snowed in and like you're going because they have to play.
Right.
But fans are like, I can't get to the arena.
I heard a story, and I can't remember if this was the Lightning before I got there or a team, and it may have been either Rick Peckham or Chief. And Rick, of course, worked for Hartford.
Yeah.
Chief was with Philly. So I'm not remembering, but the game was in Buffalo. It may have actually been the Lightning. The game was in Buffalo, and there was a horrific storm. And they played the game, but there were very few people there. And I think the Lightning were stuck there for several days after. They couldn't leave.
Yeah.
Maybe it was the Islanders. It might have been the Islanders. That might have been a Paul Kennedy story. I'm going to have to reach out to Paul because at the time, you know, the Lightning stayed at the Long Island Marriott, which is literally right across the street from the Nassau Coliseum. And Paul was like, yeah, we ran out of everything at the Marriott. Maybe Paul was with a different, because Paul's done some work with the Panthers too, early days of the Panthers.
How about minor leagues?
That can happen, right?
Sure. Minor leagues, do you ever?
Minor league, no, I don't.
Because you're going bus.
Hardcore fans.
Right? Well, you're going bus.
Well, there have been games where sometimes the game is delayed a little bit because the team can't get in. And that's sometimes not even due to snow. Sometimes just due to traffic or, other bad weather that can affect it. This was, and you may remember this storm, Greg. So I have memories of storms during seasons.
Yeah, right.
So there was a storm I was in Johnstown at the time, 1992-93 season. This probably would have been like March of 93. And there was a huge snowstorm that just hit, I'm not even going to say the Northeast.
Right.
Which Johnstown is in Pennsylvania. So that would count. But Johnstown was on a road trip. We were playing in North Carolina. Greensboro had an ECHL team at the time. This is before the Carolina Hurricanes came in.
Yeah.
And the Chiefs, they played in Greensboro, and then they were supposed to go home after that game, bust through the night, which is typical. The game ends, and it's snowing in Greensboro, North Carolina, to the extent that the roads are affected. So the Johnstown bus driver knew how to handle snow, but a lot of the drivers on the road didn't. He was getting annoyed. I remember it was dark. Cars were skidding all over the place. They had snow tires on their vehicles. But Pennsylvania was affected, the whole highway system.
Right. He
had to figure out, it took way longer to get home than normal. And we had a team coming in to play from the South. Might have been there was a Birmingham team. Birmingham, Alabama had a team.
Right.
They didn't have a team for long, but they had a team that year. They were coming in, and it was a challenge for them to get to Johnstown because of the snow. But the games were played. I remember that. The Greensboro game, I think the snow was just starting. It was more about, is the bus going to make it home? Are the roads going to be closed? Because that can happen. The vehicles that clear the snow can only do so much, right? If the snow is coming down, they got to close the roads, right? They got to make sure the roads are safe. We got home, but it was like daylight, by the time we arrived home. Anyway, I don't know if you remember. You would have been in Pittsburgh then, probably.
It would have been about 12, 13.
Yeah, you probably had a couple of school days off.
Those are the best.
Yes.
T. Kilgore says, if he continues on the same trajectory, does Radish get any Norris considerations?
Any Norris consideration?
I think he
would.
I
mean, you get 5 votes.
I think he
unlike
would.
Coach of the Year, he may get some votes. He will not get
votes.
He will not get some first, second place votes. He doesn't have the point total to rival some of the guys that will get the votes.
And who's
going to get votes is Schaefer. Schaefer's going to get a lot of votes for Rookie of the Year.
He will.
Schaefer's going to get votes for the Norris.
I mean, look, we asked this question, and it's, I think, fair, even more so with Radish. What about Moser?
Mm-hmm.
With the plus
He's
minus.
not going to get votes.
Will he get any? Will he get any?
Yeah, he deserves votes, but we've talked
more
about
defense.
that. Defensive
He's more defense.
defenseman.
It's just not,
Yeah.
which is a kind of a ludicrous award when you think about it. But how those awards work as well, where you may be deserving the 1 year, but it is more about reputation. So it would almost set you up to get more votes next year if he has another season similar to this. Gandrew or G. Andrew, however you want to go, says, I love the show, guys. Finally catching it live while I eat lunch. You guys are making me hungry. I have to eat some lunch. I got to do that after this.
Yes, we usually eat after.
We have to eat after, right? We have to eat after.
Sometimes when I'm in the arena,
Yeah.
I'll have a sandwich before
You should.
we hop on.
I haven't eaten anything, and I'm hungry. Serge says, Gensel is second in goals per game in the playoffs amongst all NHL players. A lot of our fans don't know that.
And, Gensel had the one long run his first year. Penguins won the Stanley Cup, but since then, he's never been past the second round.
Yeah.
So, he's had playoffs just about every year. And he's produced in those playoff series, but he's been on the wrong side of many of those series.
T. Kilgore also mentioned a friend of mine in New Jersey has a plaque from a Devils game where 160 people showed up during a storm. Does that mean they created a plaque for those 160 people? What
That's
did
a quick
they do?
turnaround. Who was creating the plaque in the snowstorm, too?
I don't know. Are you walking to the game? That's
well,
what
if
I'm
it was
wondering.
in the Meadowlands, nobody was walking to the game.
That's true.
Which is probably where they were playing at the time.
Carl says, are you guys doing any special coverage for the Stadium Series game? Will you be at Ray J to call the game? How's that work with where you call it from where you'll be?
So the second question, the answer is yes.
We will.
How will that be? Remains to be seen. Steve has told us that we are actually below the press box, but not at ice level, which to me, depending on, I haven't been there, so I don't know. That may actually be, if you gave me a vote, I would say, yeah, that's actually probably the best location possible. I just remember the experience in Nashville. We weren't at the top of that stadium, but the press box for a football stadium when it's halfway up, which is how it is in Nashville, and that's how it is at Ray J too. Okay, you're not all the way at the top, but the seating grade is much more shallow. So you're farther from the action. You're not higher, but you're just farther back. And then keep in mind, the action is not the entire football field. Yep. It's an enclosed space within the football field. So there's all this space from where the stands end to the boards. So it was doable, but it was not an ideal location for seeing numbers. Now, I'm not complaining about it. You go there to have the experience. I'm just reminding fans in case they've forgotten or telling them in case they're coming in with some sort of expectations. Your sight lines are not going to be the same as watching a game at Benchmark International Arena. You are going to be farther from the action unless somehow you're at ice level. And if you're at ice levels, we were just talking about with Brian Engblom and Julie, yeah, you're close, but you're going to miss stuff, which is that's the balance for the national TV crew, the broadcasters. Do they want to be in the press box where they're enclosed but farther away, or do they want to be at ice level? Yeah. Basically, they're elevated. So you're closer, you're in the elements if it's cold, colder because you're open air, right? And you don't see everything. Everything that's close to you see. Everything that isn't is hard to see. So what I understand is Steve said we are below the press box, but not at ice level. So that to me is closer to the ice, but not at ice level. We'll see. It's going to be what it's going to be. Like you do the best you can. You take in the experience. It's going to be a great event. And, you understand that this isn't a traditional from the professional standpoint of like, you want to do a good job and call the game as well as you can. There are challenges just with being in a different location and not having the same sight lines that you would have. Sure. But you understand that going in. As far as the third question was how will it go? We'll see. The first question is the Steve Versnick question. So I don't know if we're doing any additional coverage leading up to the game.
We'll let Steve work on that. I don't want to put him on the spot. I know there's, I'm sure, some things that he's putting together. Working on it. Yes, he's working on it.
Working on it.
By the way, tonight I want everybody to enjoy some Refrom. Smooth, versatile, and now pouring at Benchmark International Arena. Order a Tropical Wave or a Lightning Mule and taste why fans are switching. Refrom is a premium craft Florida local rum built on authenticity, quality, and easy drinkability. Ask for Refrom by name. Go Bolts. Enjoy responsibly.
By the way, and this was my wife's suggestion, who always has great suggestions. She's like, we should get Dennis Phillips, who is a great meteorologist for ABC, which is connected now to Scripps. Right across the street, he works from Ray J. We need to get him on as we get closer to the game.
I love that idea.
We can get our own special forecast prediction. That's his business.
That's a really strong idea.
I will tell her that you said that.
Absolutely brilliant. Yeah. Because it's almost like having the official.
Yeah.
Who can help.
So what are today's the 22nd, so we're 10 days out.
Yeah.
Like if you have a weather app, you do get a 10-day forecast. But they're telling you don't take this to the bank. Get a little bit closer.
They should actually have it on the TV. They should actually make that part of the TV broadcast. Because as valuable as a sideline reporter is in those areas, this is.
But this isn't a Scripps game. This is ESPN.
Well, regardless, ESPN should bring in a local weather person to say we are going to go down. How is the ice looking? What's the precipitation looking like? Is it going to get colder?
Yeah, and I understand rain is actually the biggest concern.
Correct.
And so I did read a story. I think Ben Pierce had the story. They're making the ice thicker than usual, and maybe they do this all the time. I don't know if this is specific to this particular game. But once they take that tent off, it's like, cross your fingers, right? Mother Nature's going to do what Mother Nature does. And they're like, we can actually deal pretty well because the game's going to be at night. So I think they have more of a handle on if it's a little bit warmer than normal, but the rain will really complicate things. And rain will, I think, if it's not cold rain, which usually rain is warmer than if it's colder, you're going to have snow or sleet. We're not going to have here. The rain could affect the thickness of the ice, which is why they're making it more thick in case they lose some leading up to the game and during the game. So fingers crossed, no rain. And chilly temps. We want the fans to be pulling out that overcoat, which they don't have to use often living here unless they're going on a trip.
Yeah.
We want them to wear that.
Sure.
For the game on February 1st. That would be ideal for the ice conditions.
It's the game is important. The reason this game is so unique is because of the elements. And I do think having somebody in the weather space makes some sense to be part of any broadcast. So there you go. Your wife is getting
she's concerned with Power Lunch and Lightning Radio. She's not as concerned about what ESPN does. Yes. But if there are any people on ESPN listening, maybe some of Julie Stewart-Binks' friends from ESPN are like, oh, Julie is on Power Lunch. Let's tune in. Hey, that's a great idea that this Linnelli guy said.
No, your wife brought it up, but I said, I think.
Well, you said ESPN.
Yeah, I think they should.
Have it. Yeah.
I think they should.
Anyway, I do know Dennis. I will reach out and see if we can get him on next week leading up to the game.
All right, so who is this? Hungry says, I want a parody recharge episode about Mishkin and Greg. How can we get this in the works? A day in the life would be interesting, especially for the travel and what that entails.
Do we have enough parody in our lives
I don't know.
Qualify for a recharge episode? You don't travel right now. I'm not traveling. I am a very boring traveler. There's something else my wife says. It's like,
Sure.
travel is wasted on you. It's like, I would be taking advantage of everything these cities that you go to, everything that city has to offer. And I don't get out enough. Usually with some prodding, I'll get out.
Yeah, I think some of that is mentality,
I kind of
too.
hunker down, too. A lot of times we're in places where the weather isn't great.
Yeah.
I like to run, as do you.
Sure.
So, that's how I see the sights.
Yeah.
But
no, I get it.
It'd be a pretty boring recharge episode if they did a day in the life of me.
And I'm not one to really go out. I think some of that is for me as I get a little older. Now, when I used to travel with the University of Pittsburgh and Duquesne University, there would be a group of people who'd want to go out and, get some dinner, hang out, which is great. But I'm not going to bars, drinking.
Yeah.
Not that there's anything wrong with it. It's just I'd rather just kind of get settled in, watch some TV, get a good night's sleep.
I mean, it's not like we're going to, let's say we go to, it's not like a Fun of the Lightning did, but let's say, it's not like we're going a week vacation in Denver.
Yeah.
Where it's like you're settled in the hotel for a week. Hey, let's take a day trip to Colorado Springs.
Yeah.
And, let's go skiing and, you're in, you're out. Right.
Yeah. Right.
And so often we're getting to the next city at, 2-3 o'clock in the morning by the time you're actually getting into your hotel room and getting into bed, which is why it's a mild shift. It's not a huge shift, but the 7 o'clock face-off tomorrow, like, that is not nothing.
No.
7 to 8 is a difference when you have a back-to-back on the road, and I don't think Columbus plays. I can check, but I'm presuming the Lightning are going to be seeing a rested team on Saturday. They won't have a skate or anything on Saturday, except maybe if they're extra guys. I'm scanning ahead just to see what's going on Friday. And, Columbus doesn't play. So the Lightning will be facing a rested team.
Yeah.
Which is typical. But it hasn't affected them. We really haven't talked that much today, Greg, about the Lightning, but, like, this 14-game run, like, putting into context some of the challenges the Lightning have had to face just circumstantially, all these road games, they've had back-to-backs, a 2-game series against the same opponent. Like, it's tough to sweep a 2-game series against the same opponent. The Lightning have done it in some regular seasons recently, Ottawa last year. But usually when the team loses that first game, they're like, and they come back in the second game. It's not uncommon to see a split. The Lightning handled that. They handled the California trip, like, quick out, play the 3 games, come right back home. They've had 2 one-home game situations back after a road trip, won both. So this back-to-back is another challenge, but, the Lightning have one of the best records in the NHL in back-to-back games this year, which is a departure, again, because their road record wasn't great the last few years, and some of that was they didn't do as well in the second half of back-to-backs, usually, which were on the road.
Yeah.
So the fact that they are 18-4-4 on the road this year tells you, because most of their back-to-backs are road, most of them. So you go 18-4-4 on the road, you're going to have a pretty good back-to-back record, and the Lightning do.
Sure.
Let's see if they can keep it going this weekend. Chicago's a strange team. And, there's some teams in the West that are there. I shouldn't say they're a strange team. They missed Bedard when he was out. He's back now. He's their best player. You pull him out, like we talked about with Celebrini. I'm not saying Bedard is going to get Hart Trophy consideration, but we always ask the question, like, what would happen to a team if you pull their best player, this guy that we're talking about for the Hart Trophy? What would this team look like if you pull this player off the team? Well, the Hawks had to go, whatever it was, a month plus without Bedard, and they sank in the standings. And Jeff Blashill even said that as it related to Bedard being left off Team Canada for the Olympics. He's like, look at how our team has struggled without him. He is that valuable to us. He's back now. But like some teams that have struggled in the West have gotten hot and gotten back into the mix and maybe even above the playoff cut line. And some teams that have done pretty well have started losing games.
Yeah.
And have fallen off. I'm talking about in the West. So, like, it wasn't that long ago, Anaheim was kind of bumbling around, right? And they were well below, but they were below the playoff cut line. I just looked today. They won 5 in a row But you know what they are in their last 10? 5-5.
Yeah.
So this 5-game winning streak came in the heels of a long regulation losing streak. And, of course, they lost to the Lightning in overtime. That was on New Year's Eve. So, even after that game, they had a bunch of regulation losses. Another team that is kind of surprising is Utah. So Utah is on an incredible stretch.
Right.
They've just finished a 7-game homestand, and they got points in all 7 games. I saw on the morning skate report, I think they're the first team. Most teams don't have a 7-game homestand. The Lightning actually do later this year. But they're the last team to point in all 7 games during a homestand of 7 games since the Kings did it like several years ago. So they are 8-1-1 in their last 10, and now they're in wild card 1. So a couple of teams have gone on some really good stretches, but then, like Calgary was up. Where Calgary was kind of fighting for position. Calgary, I think, had gotten into the second wild card, 3-6-1 in their last 10.
Yeah.
And now they're 4th from the bottom in the conference. And the Hawks are trying to recover from their time without Bedard, but they got some ground to make up. Missing him for those, whatever it was, 5 weeks really hurt them.
Yep.
So they're gonna have to go on a run here if they hope to get into the playoffs. By the way, every one of those teams below the playoff cut line in the West, for what it's worth, maybe it's not worth a lot, a negative goal differential. And in fact, 2 teams that are above the playoff cut line, Seattle and Anaheim, also have double-digit negative goal differentials. Yeah. Now, if you're seeing Colorado and Dallas a lot, you might get blown out. But it's weird that all these teams in the West, because they're playing each other, right? Like Nashville's playing Chicago. Nashville's a minus 25 goal differential. Chicago's minus 19. When they play each other, one of those teams is winning. So even working in the fact that those negative goal differential teams are playing each other, they're all heavy minuses. The one team that's single digits is Winnipeg. Winnipeg is in 8th. They are 14th in the conference. They're having an objectively terrible year. Mm-hmm. But only -4 is their goal differential, in part because they're losing a lot of close games, I'm guessing. The other part about Anaheim, which I noticed, interesting, 6-0 in the shootout. So they have 3 losses past regulation. One of those was to the Lightning because the Lightning beat them in overtime.
Yeah.
But they have cashed in when games have gone into overtime, which has helped them get into the 3rd place spot. If you had said almost 50 games in, they've played 50 games, Anaheim Ducks would be in 3rd place in the division at the start of the year. I don't know too many people would agree with that assessment, but I think a couple things have happened. First of all, they've exceeded expectations, but also the Pacific has been, it's not been as strong, frankly, as the Central with the teams at the top in the Central. Vegas is having a good year, but Edmonton kind of sort of up and down, but more up. They're in 2nd place. And then it's just going to be probably a mad scramble for 3rd place because that's an automatic. You could actually finish in 3rd place in the Pacific with fewer points than both wildcard teams. If both wildcard teams are coming from the Central, that could happen. Meaning that the team that's right behind you in 3rd place is going to miss 4th place in the Pacific is going to miss the playoffs simply because they couldn't catch you. You got in because you took one of those top 3 spots. That'd be interesting to see. I'm not sure that the Central, they're top heavy. I'm not sure that the Central has really distinguished itself after the top 3 as opposed to the Pacific. But the top of the Pacific is way weaker than the top of the Central. Minnesota in 3rd place in the Central has 5 more points than Vegas in 1st place in the Pacific.
They've also done Anaheim in the shootouts. That's also
what I was saying. 6-0.
Yes, that's just huge. As you, that's a big deal if you can get that extra point.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be tight. We know that. Yep. We've got our show tomorrow.
Yeah, we went over here. Sorry, I got tied up in the standings.
That's all right. We're going to go live, I think.
Yes, we'll try and have a guest.
Yeah.
We're going live tomorrow. Yeah, we'll reach out to some people on the Hawks side and see if
let's get some Hawks, and we'll still get to your questions.
They can talk more intelligently about what this Bedard absence meant to this team and what his return has meant to the team. They had a great ovation for Taves, by the way, the other night.
Yeah.
Did you hear about that?
Was it the full intermission or not the full intermission?
They did a
but the
TV
full
timeout, but
TV
they had
timeout?
extended the TV timeout by like 2 minutes because there was a standing ovation. He meant a lot to that.
Good for him.
To that team, to that franchise, to that city.
Yeah.
So nice for him to get acknowledged. And he's had a hard road back, right?
Yeah. Steve saying you can mention Killorn, who was honored for his 1,000th.
Yes, congratulations
Graham.
to Alex Killorn.
Very cool.
Very cool.
Still doing his thing. So, Barner, great job as always.
Talk to you tomorrow.
And we'll do it tomorrow. Thanks to everybody who listened. We appreciate you guys. Thanks to Steve Ersnick as well. I am Greg Linnelli. You've been listening to Power Lunch right here on Lightning Radio.